schedule?
I'm retired and the knees are working better, so it's really the convenience of the commission.
All right. Well, Becky will sign you up, set it up. Any other questions from commissioners? This is great. I'm looking forward to this.
I just want to say, Ed, that I think they all deserve an A. If they only get one question from Dave Barnacle, I mean, come on, they did their homework clearly.
I think it's an A+ because she answered it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Into the line, Ben.
That can all be blamed on Professor LePage. She's not an easy professor, I've heard, at WPI, so, he works the kids hard.
There you
go.
Good.
That's good. Jeff, could you see if any townspeople would like to speak?
Are y'all done? Can I do that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. Is there anyone on the public line that would like to comment on the WPI Trails plan? Okay.
I'd like to say something. This is Penny Duma.
Hi, Penny.
Hi. That second Eric motion for the A+ for the students. And then I have something that's kind of simple. It's almost silly to bring up. But where you're putting the picnic tables or where you design the picnic tables, I was wondering if you could consider other locations. And the reason being is, like Steve pointed out, we've been dreaming about this project for so many years. And I'm just picturing the bridge and the footbridge and all of that. And when you think of taking your kids out or your spouse out, or you're just going over a bridge, there's something about that experience and stopping, looking at the water flowing. And my thought is, if we can tuck picnic tables, like not right there in that setting, it makes a nicer experience for those that are walking over those areas, so that the picnic table areas would kind of be tucked into the forest here and there, but maybe not right there at that special spot.
Okay.
That's all. But thank you. Excellent presentation. I'm super excited. It just gets better and better.
Thank you. And yeah, that's a really great consideration. We'll definitely think about that.
Jeff, anybody else there?
Didn't hear anybody. Nope.
All right.
Ed, I just wanted to add, thank the students and Suzanne for the project. We appreciated working with you throughout this process. And we hope for a continued partnership with WPI because it's been really useful for us to have you help us with these projects. And I hope that the students, I hope you learn something out of this and it helps further you in your education. So thank you again.
Yeah, I'd like to add that too. How are you guys doing as far as school is concerned is with COVID? What year are you guys in? You guys, meaning gals, guys.
We're all seniors right now.
What? Kate?
We're all seniors.
All seniors? Oh, fantastic. Is it going to be an exciting graduation, or is it going to be 6 feet apart like everybody else's?
Well, we canceled graduation last year, so we're hoping that we can do something better than that this year. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. But thank you for mentioning that, because all the students, whether they were doing the senior capstone project or just their regular coursework, they've had a very challenging last 12 months to have the rug pulled out from them the way it has, and really disrupted their social circles and the way they learn. And all the faculty have had to adapt about how we deliver the content in the courses. So thank you for recognizing that. But I think we've had some great success, and these students have just persevered, and we're very, very proud of them.
Well, it's very important to all of us, so great, what you've done. And anybody else have any other comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for what you've done. We look forward to walking across the bridge with you. Some early days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, team.
Great
job.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah.
All right, we are on to the, Becky, do you want to go into our public hearings?
Yes, yep, let's skip the other stuff, we'll do it at the end.
Just from the chair, I'd like to, as far as the public hearings are concerned, what I'd like to do tonight a little bit different. I'll announce the public hearing, and then we're going to hear from Becky completely on her input, and then we will go to each of the gentlemen on the board. Okay. So we're going to start off with public hearing number 1, which is, are we at 6:25? Yes, we are. We have 11, 13, 15 Putnam Road, RDA construction of 3 single-family and associated site work house lots. Applicant owner is Lucier Builders. Representative is J. Dubois, DC Engineering and Survey. Okay, Becky, you want to start that off?
Yep, Jeff, can you give me the ability to present again, please?
Yep, hang on.
Thanks. I'm just going to add that for all of the public hearings, we have receipt of legal ad and the butter notifications. And then also, if we can ask if there's anyone in attendance of the meeting for a public hearing, if they're part of the project, if they could just identify themselves at the beginning for the public record. Let me share my screen here in a moment. All right, so I am just pulling up here. If you need me to zoom in a little bit, I can. This is an RDA. I'll let the engineer comment afterwards if he feels there's something he needs to add. What we're looking at is we have an RDA for the 3 lots here. They're to be developed as single-family houses. On the east, the right side of this, we see we have a wetland across the road. To the south, we have a wetland which is off-site. And to the southeast, we have, or southwest, we have a wetland which is just off-site as well. So what we've discussed for this application is the submission of an RDA pursuant to request if a review is required under the Wetlands Protection Act. We do have 3 local NOIs for review for public hearings right after this. So you can see the blue coloring represents wetlands. The pinkish purple line is our 100-foot buffer zone, and then green presents our local 200-foot buffer zone. You can see that the wetland on the east side of the road is what projects a 100-foot buffer within the work area. The site is primarily an ag field, hay, which they're proposing for the 3 single-family houses. We did look at the site and check the wetlands. We have no concerns with the wetland line associated for this project. For the RDA, I would recommend voting to issue a negative number 3, and that is the work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to the protection under the Act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent subject to the following conditions. For the wetland across the road, the site does kind of slope towards the west, but I'd recommend, which we would add in anyways, that anti-tracking pads be installed within the proposed driveways to reduce, eliminate tracking, sediment, et cetera, onto the roadway due to the wetlands across the street. And that's all.
All right, that's 11, 13, and 15, Beth?
Correct. Yep, 11 is the one on the bottom, 11, 13, and then 15 to the north.
Jason, do you have any input you'd like to make?
No, I think Rebecca got everything pretty good there, so I don't really have anything to add unless there's any additional questions.
Okay, great. I'll start off with Stephen.
Yeah, could you ask somebody else? I'm looking at this right now.
Okay, sure. David?
I have no question.
Steve Haldeman.
Yeah, my only comment is that the tracking pad should be made out of stone and not tailings like I see around town. Not necessarily ones in the vicinity of wetlands, but definitely, a lot of them are not really put in the tracking. So maybe make a note of that, Becky.
Put that in the order of conditions.
4 minus or something like that. Look at the EPA guidelines.
Yeah. Eric?
No questions.
No, and I looked at it. I have no questions. I think Steve's comment is a good one. Stephen?
Yeah, I'm all set, Ed. Thanks.
You're all set? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Eric Gaspar?
Eric?
Oh, we probably need to go to the public first, right?
Oh, you're right. Thanks, Eric. Jeff, could we see if anybody in the public would like to speak on this, please?
Good evening. Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak to the Putnam Road 13, 15, 11 RDA? Construction of 3 single-family homes. Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak to 11, 13, and 15 Putnam Road RDA? No comment, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Jeff.
Motion to close the public hearing. Eric Gaspar.
All right, Eric, motion. Second.
David Barnacle.
David, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay. And Becky, so you only have Eric, Jason as far as people to add.
Thank you.
Yep. That I can see here. And we are now
Did you make a motion for the determination in addition to closing the public hearing?
No.
No, we didn't.
I'll make a motion to issue a -3 on this.
Do I have a second?
Seconded. Steve Barnacle. Dave and I will.
Dave Barnacle. Seconds. Discussion.
Under comments, I might make the comment that this is only to approve of it as an RDA.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Starting with Stephen.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Dave Barnacle.
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Becky, for catching that. What is the time?
Right now it's 6:36.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking the next hearing starts at
6:35.
6:35. We are right on. We have 20 seated at Lake Drive, notice of intent, raise and rebuild.
No. You just skipped. You skipped 3.
Which one is it?
You're at number 5,
okay.
Which is 11 Putnam Road.
All right, 11 Putnam. Sorry about that. So we're going to go to notice of intent for 11 Putnam Road. Construction of a single-family and associated site work. Becky, you want to?
Sure. So this is a local notice of intent, just subject to our Sturbridge wetland bylaw. We already covered the 100-foot buffer zone, which just is projected on a portion of this site. So this is one of the lots. This is the one to the south, which does have a buffer zones projected from the 3 wetlands on site. My recommendation would be to approve project at this time as shown. As I stated in the previous public hearing, did go out and do a site visit. This is an existing hayfield. All work is within that hayfield. The site gently slopes to the left of the plan here, which is the west. I don't have any concerns with the proposed project. I'd recommend that an anti-tracking pad be installed on the site, as we discussed before, and that sedimentation controls are included at the limit of grading shown on the plan, because there isn't a limit of work shown here. So the limit of grading will serve as the limit of grading shall serve as the limit of work for the project too. That's all.
All right, thank you. Jason, anything?
No, I don't have anything to add.
All right, great, thank you. David?
One question, not comment. This is David Barnacle. I'm kind of curious, Becky, about the approval with the land sloping to the left of the way that this is set up on the screen. Isn't that going to offer the opportunity for runoff after it's completely put into a house lot with lawns, etc., for runoff to go down into the streams? Should we be looking at something on the perimeter in order to be able, like a swale of some kind, in order to be able to guide the water away from the wetlands without any kind of absorption capability?
Well, the work is at the outer extent of the buffer zone, so any water running off the site to the south of this, it's forested, and to the west as well. By the time it goes through the rest of the field and the forest, it would probably be better to allow it to infiltrate into the ground maybe versus directing it closer to a wetland. But you bring up a good point, things like, impervious surfaces, things, you can ask for, incorporate measures for runoff off of impervious surfaces along the driveway or the house, things like that.
Aren't some of the other two sites that are going to be developed going to change that aspect of the protection that you were just talking about?
Well, yeah, those sites will be developed too. Those are the furthest from the wetlands, though, too.
They're further north, aren't they?
Yeah. And the ones to the north, it's only the wetland across the street that they're within the buffer zone, too.
Okay.
Anything else, Dave?
Nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Stephen?
Yeah, I agree with Becky's comment about the limit of grading. I'd like to see that delineated.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm good.
Eric?
I'm good.
And Steve Haldeman?
I'm good with this.
Yeah, I'm good too. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
We got to go to the public.
Oh,
Close the public.
I'm trying to get this thing done.
Mr. Chair. Good evening. Is there anyone to speak to 11 Putnam Road, local notice of intent? Is there anyone to speak to 11 Putnam Road application? Okay. No one's there.
Thanks, Jeff. Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Eric Gaspar?
Eric, motion?
Yep.
David Barnacle, second the motion.
David Barnacle, second. Discussion? All in favor? Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor of closing the public hearing.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Now, do I have a motion on the board?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, David Barnacle, for 11 Putnam Road for a local NOI with the notes as indicated by Rebecca.
Eric Gaspar, second.
All right, discussion. Hearing none. Eric, how do you vote?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Steve Haldeman.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chidester.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David.
I made the motion. I guess David Barnacle in favor.
Okay, and Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, thank you. On number 11. We're now on to 13 Putnam Road. SWB, notice of intent, construction of a single-family house. Becky?
All right, I'm just going to share my screen again. So this is the middle lot, and as you can see, we've got the coloring on here. We've got blue wetland flags across the street. We have the 100-foot pink buffer zone shown here, and then the 200-foot here. So the house driveway portion of this project is within jurisdiction. Just a note, in my detailed agenda, I put 3 wetlands for this one too, but it's just the one wetland. Same thing, I would recommend approval of the project, issuance of an orders of conditions with our standard conditions, as well as the anti-tracking pad, as we previously discussed, and that sedimentations are included at the limit of work. The limit of grading showed in the plan, and the limit of grading shall serve as the limit of work for the project.
All right. Jason, do you have anything to say?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. David?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. This is David Barnacle.
Yep, Stephen?
No questions. Stephen Chittister.
Eric?
No questions.
Steve?
Steve Halterman, no questions.
And Ed Goodwin, no questions. Okay. Hearing none. Jeff, could you see if anybody in the audience would like to speak to 13 Putnam Road, please?
Good evening. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the 13 Putnam Road local notice of intent? Nope, no one's out there.
Thanks, Jeff. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Steve Halterman.
Steve Haldeman. Moved. And Eric?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Barnacle, how do you vote?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chidester.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gaspar.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Steve Haldeman.
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Do I have a motion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that the board approve of 13 Putnam Road, a local notice of intent, with all of the notes as indicated by Rebecca.
Do I have a second?
Sure. Second. Eric Gaspar.
Eric seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, Steve Halterman.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
And Stephen Chidester.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, we are on to 15 Putnam Road. Becky?
All right. Let's see. No, that's this one. All right. Don't have a colored. Actually, I have a. Is the right one? Mm-hmm. All right. So here we go. Here's the colored plan. You can see we've got the buffer zones. You can't see the resource area on the opposite side of the road. It is. We've got the 200-foot buffer zone, which has most of the work within it, and we do actually have part of the 200-foot. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. This is the wrong one.
Wrong one.
Wrong one. Sorry. Yeah. We'll just go back. This is lot C. I just don't have a colored one ready to present to you. But as you can see, we have the wetland across the street. We have the 100-foot buffer zone projected on the site, and then we have the 200-foot buffer zone projected right in the middle of the site. Same thing as the last ones. You know, existing agricultural fields, everything slopes to the west. Wetlands, like I said, on the right side of the road. Most of the work is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The middle portion, or the back portion of this lot is not within jurisdiction. I would recommend approval of the project as shown, and I'd add in, we'd have our normal standard conditions as well as the anti-tracking pad we discussed with the no millings, as well as the addition of sedimentation controls, and that the limit of grading shall serve as the limit of work for the project.
All right. Any discussion? I want Jason, you're all set?
How about Jason?
Yeah, I just what I said, Jason, you're all set, right?
I'm all set. Thanks, Rebecca.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I have one question for Jason. Jason, how did you get away with this so that we have no questions? I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Stephen? Anything?
Nope, all set.
Eric?
No, I'm all set. David stepped on my joke. I was going to say I have a real problem with this one, but the other ones are fine.
Steve?
For Eric.
Steve, you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I have Jason, I have a question. Why is this one not colored?
I was going to say that the colors definitely make a presentation.
We do the colors. No, I just couldn't find that one.
Okay.
Eric's been doing the colors on the plans, so.
Oh, really? It helps.
It does. It makes it nice and clear.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, anybody in the audience? That would be the first question.
Good evening. Is there anyone in the audience to speak to the 15 Putnam Road local notice of intent? Okay, there's no one out there to speak.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Steve Holden.
Steve Alderman.
All right, a second.
Eric seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, Steve, how do you vote?
Steve Holderman in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
And Ed in favor. All right. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve of the 15 Putnam Road local NOI with the notes indicated by the agent.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, Eric Gaspar.
Eric? All right, Eric Gaspar. Any discussion? Seeing none, Eric, how do you vote?
In favor, Eric Gaspar.
Steve Haldeman.
Steve Haldeman in favor.
Stephen Chittister.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David Barnacle.
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Jason. Take care.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.
We are now to where I wanted to jump to, 20 Cedar Lake Drive. Notice of intent, raise and rebuild of a single family and 250 foot shoreline wall restoration. Okay. We do not have a DEP file number, Beck? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Beck.
Okay. I'm just not sure. Is Lenny here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen, Lenny. I was going to go first and do my presentation, but I know you like to. Would you like to go first and go over your project?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to.
Well, don't sound so excited, Lenny.
Lenny, are you in Florida?
No, I just got back.
Oh, all right, just check.
That was my first mistake today.
But anyway, getting back onto this thing, what it is, it's the property that was owned by Ryan and Sarah Oxman, which is located at Cedar Lake off of Cedar Lake Drive. What they did is they originally purchased lot number 20, which had a total coverage at the time of let's see, of roughly 34%, and then they later on purchased lot 13, which was what was beside them. With the two lots, they purchased one of them, the original, which was in June of 2012, and then the other one they purchased, which was August of 2019, which gave them a total area of 13,650 square feet. So what actually is taking place here is that it becomes a little misleading when you look at the zoning suburban residential district, rather than we had the original coverage at 17.22, and now we're going to 23%. Well, what it is there is that, the figures don't lie, but liars figure. But what it is that the property that they originally owned, which was lot 20, actually covered 34%. So really what they did is in January 19th, with Davis and George and Sturbridge, they recorded a plan which was done by DC Engineering in Worcester, that brought the property up to the 13,500 square feet. So it's 650 square feet, I'm sorry. So it's so right now, even though we're showing a coverage of 23%, the actual thing is actually, compared to what he had originally, is an improvement, by about 11% less coverage. The property itself has an area basically encompassed along the shoreline, which is in a flood control district, which was basically established at elevation 652. So the 675.2 rather, which was based on the U.S. GIS datum, which was done off of the Army Corps of Engineers bounds at the south end of Cedar Lake, and also done by aerial photography to come up with the control for the property, and that's how we've come up with these controls relative to the Cedar Lake itself. This was done by DC Engineering, and then transferred into this lot here. What it is that the building itself, what they're trying to do is to actually stay within the footprint of the existing structure, which is less than 25 feet from the lake itself. But if you take a look at the existing garage that is on the property, that garage actually is only about 1.6 feet from the property line. So we couldn't change anything relative to the configuration of the foundation because of the proximity of the property line. What we did to this thing is we added some things to it, which we added an addition onto the property, which you will see there's a proposed addition. This addition is only 372 square feet, which equates to roughly 2.72% of additional coverage relative to the house itself. The major portion which is done is there's a deck that should be going on the north side of the house. This area here would be about 497 square feet, which comes up to about 3.64%. So if you take it all, that's how you come up with the actual coverage of 23% now. Whereas the deck itself is basically raised above grade. It's on piers. It's pervious, going back into natural grade. The deck in the front of the house is going to stay on piers, which is again pervious, and that would go back to the earth down below. So that the runoff in that area basically is negated. What it is we took the roof line, everything where the garage was, and the access way actually from the garage to the house. There was a tunnel there that accessed the garage and the house, but they're putting the addition on top of that. We added a leaching pit to collect the water on the existing garage and the tunnel area itself, so there would be no additional runoff on the site per se. So you find that the impact is negligible. The septic system is actually a municipal system, which is town sewer, and there's a private well on the property. The well basically is located on the southerly side of the existing house, and there's also one on the northerly side of the existing house. That one on the northerly side will be discontinued. There's paperwork that's been sent to that will be sent to the Board of Health to discontinue that well on that side, and we only have one well servicing the existing house. And then the sewer line, what it is now, there's a sewer connection which is located on the most southerly side of the lot next to the leaching pit that we were putting in. That area, that pump there will be discontinued, and the other pump will be on the northerly side of the house, which will be connected to the existing sewer, which is already connected. What it was is that the house, the lot on the northerly side, there was a house there at one time. It burnt, and it was never rebuilt, and that's when Mr. Roxman purchased the house. In the process of purchasing that lot, there was an existing shed located very close to the water, if not, I would say, on the water. It's roughly 1.9 feet from the wall, stone wall in the front of the property, but that house is totally within the flood control district and is subject to flood insurance. Talking to Mr. Oxman, he is aware of the fact that that building is in the flood district, but he would say that he'd like to repair that particular building, to restore it, to use it as an office space, and he would be happy to pay for the flood insurance of that particular building. What we're doing off of that is we're going with approximately 250 lineal feet of wall along the shoreline, which encompasses, you can see on your plans, which basically starts from the proximity of where the existing house is, that property line corner, going up northerly and then westerly to an area just short of where that shed is, which is a total of 250 feet. From the most northeasterly corner of the wall near the shed to the property corner on the westerly, there's a shore line in there that just goes, that they use access to for boats to go into the water and ice ski-doos and stuff. And that will not change. The only thing that will be changing is the wall from that shed area around to where the other house is. And to look at the wall itself, basically in front of the house, that has already been repaired under a previous notice of intent and is complete and will not be changed. That's why we're coming up with only 250 feet of frontage repair on the wall. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, I'd like to go to Becky next. Becky?
Okay, thanks, Ed. So Lenny summarized the project pretty well. I don't feel like I need to go into that. I did summarize the project in the detailed agenda with my notes and recommendations. I was kind of touched on some of those things. What we have for jurisdictional resource areas here, we have bordering land subject to flooding. That's the flood zone shown where the new shed structure will be located. And we're looking at bank impacts associated with the shoreline wall work. Most of the project is in the upland area in buffer zone. So it's a raise and rebuild of the existing house with additions to it, and then the raise and rebuild of the shed, as well as the wall work. So as far as the structures, all of the structures are proposed to come out and be rebuilt, including the additions. We do have within our local bylaw, we have a 25-foot no disturb and a 50-foot no new structures. I'd recommend that with all projects where proponent is requesting to put a structure within the 50-foot buffer zone and work within the 25-foot buffer zone, that the board request and look at an alternative analysis for that. No new structures are permitted within that area unless a waiver is requested and granted for that. I'd also recommend that the board look at the applicant explore options to a more natural shoreline approach. When we were on site last week for the site visit, the applicants were there and we did talk about some different options. It's my understanding that they'll look into that versus more of a revetment style, shoreline project here. So I did include some additional notes within my recommendations on that. That they should look into. With that as well, with what comes back for those options, the commission will need to see for that shoreline work. We look at, we will need a plan. It can be a sketch to scale, including a detail for that work. So that's important. And because we do have additional resource areas associated with the lake, which is land underwater, when we see these wall replacements, we look at having the toe of the new wall not go any further into or onto land underwater. So that'll be important to include as a detail on that. In addition, I had a question, and Lenny touched on it a little bit. When we do have impervious surfaces near resource areas, especially this close, we do look at BMPs to mitigate stormwater runoff. So for the impervious surfaces on the house, Lenny did add, one of my questions was the leaching pit on site. He did say that would be for the garage and the tunnel section of the house. It would be recommended and useful to look at additional BMPs for mitigating stormwater off the rest of the structure as well. At this time, since I think that there's some additional information that would need to be submitted for the commission to review as part of the project, and we don't have a DEP file number or comments, I'd recommend that the project is continued to the next meeting to have that additional information submitted for the board. And that's all.
All right, thank you. I'm going to jump to Brian and Sarah for your comments or input.
No, I appreciate the site visit. I thought that was great. Definitely heard what you were saying, Rebecca, about the shoreline, and we have talked to somebody definitely on the cove side, being able to put something in there that might be a mix of, more plants and the rocks, where when you come around on the side where it's directly on the lake, you need a little bit more stone there because that's where you get lots of waves coming through. And that's where it's starting to erode pretty well underneath the existing wall. But I think absolutely take into account, and we'll bring back some different options for you guys to look at.
Okay. Sarah, anything?
No, that's what we were talking about, yeah. Yep.
Right. David, anything?
Oh, boy. Well, first of all, I agree with Becky's comments relative to looking at some other version of the wall. The Great Wall of China is not what we want to see around Cedar Lake. And I think Mr. Goodwin makes that point routinely. I am really concerned about a raise and rebuild because we have a couple of things that we have to pay attention to. The first one is if you're within 25 or 50 feet of a wetland or watery resource like Cedar Lake, when you raise the building, the reconstruction has to be within that footprint. Not without that footprint, within that footprint. Otherwise, it cannot be approved. If you're going to move it completely, I don't know where you put it on that site. Members of this commission know that site extraordinarily well. Not from you two, from the previous ownership, and that's pre-fire. The wave action that you just talked about, sir, has been a problem since maybe 1950. All it's done is rip and tear at that property, and it's not going to go away. But I'm very, very, very concerned about the location of that structure, such that it is not within the areas that are going to be detrimental to Cedar Lake. We have a great resource. You love the resource. Everybody around it loves it, and we want to try to protect it as best we can. End of lecture.
Can I ask a quick question just to clarify what you said? You said something about a raise and rebuild can't be anywhere other than the existing footprint. Did I hear that right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you heard
that is what's supposed to happen unless you get a waiver from the commission. That's what Becky was referring to. We can issue a waiver if the plan is better.
So just to clarify, so existing structures located within the 50-foot no new build, as is our grandfathered. However, if you do tear them down, what the regulations say is you are now subject to the no new structures within 50 feet. However, sometimes on sites, it makes sense to put a structure back in its footprint. If it has a foundation, there are no good alternatives. So the commission has granted waivers for those in the past, and I think that's what Dave is referring to, if there's no viable alternative. Now, also here, you're actually adding additions those new structures in addition to the house is what kind of you need to look at as, okay, we're showing you that we don't have any alternative options, and go through that process to request a waiver. Does that clarify?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right. Stephen?
Yeah, so first of all, how many trees are coming down for this project? I know you pointed out one mature tree while we were on site.
Yep, just the one that's rotted in the middle. We cut off a lot of the branches that were burned from the fire. And when the person was up there, they realized, they looked down and they said that right where it splits, it's got a big Y, is all rotted. And he said that's going to come right down on the house.
Right. So one thing I would like to see, because this site is lacking growth, anything other than grass. So I would like to see a planning plan. I'm also concerned about the new structures, especially within 25 feet. Sometimes we allow structures if we're given, an area that is reclaimed, basically. We don't have a situation like that on this site, so that's a significant problem. So I would like to see an alternate plan that does not have the new structures, within the 25 and 50 foot. And I'd like to see a planning plan. That's it for me, Ed.
Okay. Eric?
Thank you, Stephen. I was going to say something similar. Lenny, is there someplace on here, or maybe Brian and Sarah, is there someplace on here that we can put some additional mitigation in place to offset the additional impacts that are being proposed in here? I'd like to see that as a possible adjustment to this. So that was all I had.
Okay. Well, what we can actually do is that the gravel driveway that is accesses into the lot in the vicinity of the shed, between the shed and the house, we can take that area out, remove the gravel and area, and then just put in some type of vegetation in that area, that area would no longer become parking for or access to vehicles onto the lot itself. We could do that.
Steve Haldeman.
Yeah, first of all, the shed that's right on the water, are you going to tear that down?
Yeah, I looked at it quite a bit. I wanted to try at one point to rebuild it as it was because I don't know if it's how true this is, but folks have told me that the original cove had all of those little fishing sheds. So I'm like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to have the last one. But when I went underneath it, because the wall's falling out, feels like it's probably at this point, take it out, fix the wall, and then put it back. Yeah, I'd like to put it back in.
I think there's a problem with that. That would not be allowed if you're using it for a boathouse or something that's water dependent, then that would be allowed. But if you're using it for an office, then that would not be allowed. That's within the 25 foot. And also, there's a discussion about whether or not that the size of the house is going to the percentage of development on the property is within the guidelines of the planning department bylaws. Did I hear you correctly, Lenny, that it's not going to be in conformance, but it's better, but it's still not in conformance?
That is absolutely correct. What it is we have right here two lots, okay, lots 13 and 14. However, the total area is 13,650 square feet for the two lots combined. Whereas if you're in Sturbridge with the suburban residential district, which has only a sewer but no private and a private well, which means that you're talking basically 32,000 square feet is required for construction, whereas now we only have about 13,000 square feet. So what happens is we have to go before the zoning board of appeals for a special permit to allow construction to take place. That would be as shown on the plan.
So there's a possibility that the size of that house is not going to be allowed at the end of the day. So
that's not necessarily true. That possibility may be. However, the understanding practice with the town over years conception is that a house that is being built within its existing footprint is allowed. So, in the house, the house is good. So as far as I'm concerned, to do the house exactly as we show it, which we said in the narrative, is that it's going back on that existing footprint. The only thing that I have that would be in question would be the addition onto the building, which is roughly 372 square feet, which is the proposed addition on the northerly side of the house. This here is into the center of the lot. It's within, outside of the 50-foot setback, so the structure is allowed there. I feel comfortable going before the zoning board of appeals to get that small area of, under 400 square feet approved by the zoning board of appeals. Okay.
Okay, and you don't. Well, okay. If they're grandfathered into that footprint, then so be it. Too bad. But anyway.
Steve,
all
do you
right,
have
thank
any
you.
concerns?
Comment?
Do you have any other concerns?
No, I'm all set.
Can I just clarify one thing that you asked? You mentioned something about the shed. If the shed, is an office, the shed currently has a bathroom and a shower in it, and I don't know if that has any bearing on an existing structure because I can see how it could be used for a boathouse, in the future. But today, it still has a bathroom and a shower. It's got a sink. I'm not sure if that changes anything with grandfathering at all.
No, the thing is the structure is grandfathered. However, it is in a flood district. Okay, so it would require that you would have to get flood insurance to protect that particular building in that location.
That's outside of our purview.
Yeah, right. I know. I just brought that up for your edification.
So, let me clarify one thing.
Yeah.
A building has 372 square feet added to it. It is not in its existing footprint.
That is absolutely correct.
I just want to make sure you understand that you are not building in your existing footprint. And so this board would have to say, oh, yeah, they can build that there, even though they're not in the existing footprint. So Becky's, I think that's the essence of, and the other thing that if you want to keep that shack, which, you know, I can understand that, but you really have to think about how you're going to form the foundation. You might want to bring it back a couple feet from the wall and put it on some footings and put the wall and have the wall go by it. There's got to be some type of engineering that we would be comfortable with there. Okay, we've been through some options, and you're going to look for a continuation here. You don't have a number anyway, right? So I'd like, at this point, I'd like a continuation, or I'd like you to ask for a continuation to address some of the points that Becky made, and the tone that the board has given you for when we were on site. You talked about building in the existing footprint, but you aren't.
Yeah,
so there's no discrepancy there.
No, can I ask a question on the, because you mentioned a new structure within 25 feet. If this was pulled back behind the yellow that Rebecca's put on there, what would be the committee's opinion or feeling on if it was wider?
Yeah.
Back, as long as we stay within the 25 feet all the way around.
See, we can't, at this point, we can't really give you a decision on that. We're a 5-member board. And that's why we're saying go back and take a look at your options to improve it. And Becky can give you guidance, but I think at this point, I don't want, we've got a meeting to hold here to continue it on into a negotiating session at this point doesn't make any sense. So.
Oh, but Mr. Chairman, we should not forget that it isn't just a 25-foot. We also have a 50-foot no new structure.
I understand that. I wasn't forgetting them, Mr. Barnacle. I was just trying to move on.
About the public.
And have them. That's okay. That's a good point. Jeff.
Yep.
We'd like to hear from the public.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any more
Is there anyone
discussion?
to speak to the application for 20 Cedar Lake Drive? Good evening. Is there anyone to speak to the 20 Cedar Lake Drive notice of intent? There's no one to speak, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with no discussion being made, I'd like to move that we have a continuance to the next meeting to rectify the problems and to make a renewed presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to move it to Becky. Can we afford to have it first meeting in April?
That is our next meeting, April 6th. After that, we don't have a meeting until May 4th.
So that'd be a big yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve of a motion to hold a continuation until the next meeting, which is May 6th, you said, Becky?
April 6th.
April 6th.
April 6th.
Thank you.
Dave, all I wanted to do is move up a couple of orders of conditions. You're taking a whole month away from us here.
Just out of curiosity, is that going to give enough time for the planning board or zoning board to weigh in on the lot conformity?
let's put it this way. Let me answer that one thing. Make this emphatically clear, okay? Until we have a definitive decision from the Conservation Commission, we would not be presenting this to the Zoning Board of Appeals until that point comes about, okay? So the time right there is not relative.
Okay.
All right, so I'm asking.
Becky's got something to say.
Becky?
Yeah, just to add, I believe it's on the ZBA's agenda for April 21st. But I mean, from being a staff person, because you have two different boards with two different regulations, I guess, getting some feedback from them before getting a decision from the commission for any project, I would say is useful. It might mean that you continue and you go back to another meeting with them. But, you get to a point with the commission and commission approves something and close the public hearing, and then say there's a concern with ZBA on lot coverage or whatever else there could be. Then we got to come back and reopen up, open a new public hearing, do an amendment to a project potentially. So as a staff person, I see the benefits of presenting to both boards, even if it's done informally for comment before one board makes a decision is always, in my mind, recommended. I think it's useful to get perspectives from them as you're moving forward with some type of revisions in an effort to not, have to keep going back and revising a project, which adds time and cost to it too.
Right.
That's correct.
Looking at this thing looking at this thing realistically, if we go to the April 6th meeting, okay, let's assume everything is passed on the 6th. It'd be virtually impossible to have the ZBA meeting on the 21st. Okay, what it is, it's the legal meeting for the ZBA is 14 days in publication in the paper, and then you got a 7-day time frame to get the legal notice into the paper, which is 21 days, and we wouldn't have enough of time to get this into the paper and advertise to conform to the 21st of April. So
all right, we got you
next month.
Lenny, we have you on for April 6th.
Okay, fine. That's fine. I accept that.
David, did you have something you want to say?
I need a second.
You need a second. Do I have a second to the continuation, Eric?
I guess I'm a little confused as to why we would go and do anything without ZBA weighing in, because it seems like an incredible waste of our time to go through and put a decision in place and need their weigh in, because if they're not going to approve the lot as a conforming situation, then we will have just gone through a tremendous amount of effort for nothing. And also, the Oxmans will go through alternatives plans that are going to cost them money to do as well. So I think that the best course of action is, for me, would be to continue this until the first week in May, have them go in front of ZBA on April 21st, and then allow us to have a productive discussion. I think continuing it just to continue it, we're gonna waste everybody's time and the Oxman's money, which I don't think is really fair. So
let me give you an alternative point to that. They come before our board with requirements. If they bring us the requirements that we ask for in coming to the board, then, we need to look at them and give them our input. If you do the board thing, they can be going round and round and round and round. And that's not fair to the applicant. I admit that the engineer should be given the guidance on what he thinks he can get past and what he thinks he can't get past. But that isn't something that we should be doing. We should be setting it up so they can come before us. If they don't want to come April 6th, they can come some other day. But if we have that date available, I feel that we need to entertain them.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll leave that up to Brian and Sarah. Can I ask them, what do you guys want?
I really appreciate that you're asking. I think that's great. I think we'd like to come on April 6th, but if we get a week before and it doesn't look like we're ready, maybe I can reach out to Rebecca and see if there's an opportunity to come to May. Would that be an option?
Sure. Eric, you satisfied with that?
I'm satisfied with that.
All right.
Thank you for thinking of that.
Thank you.
All right. So we have to have a vote here.
We need a second.
You looking for a second?
I'll second it. Yes, I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Beg your pardon?
Is this for the holding off until for the next meeting?
The continuation. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. No comments on that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All in favor, Eric?
Yeah, Eric Aspar in favor.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David?
Barnacle in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you. We'll see you April 6th or maybe not.
Right.
Okay, thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Yep. All right. Next on the agenda, we have 566 Route 15, SWB, NOI, construction of a single-family home, and associated site work. Becky?
Okay, so this is a local notice of intent that we received. Few comments on this. I've got it up on the screen for you. Upon review of this, it came to our knowledge that this property it was a lot that was divided off, but then it was an A&R plan was submitted and it was rejoined to a larger property. So we had the question about the application included the 566 address and a butters list for 566, and the plan references this as existing property line. So we did ask that question to the engineer, and I'll go into that a little bit more. So overall, this is a site that we have been to. I did go back out to the site just to check to make sure none of the previous conditions had changed on the site. There was nothing changed here, just that they had done the perk test out here. What we're looking at here in green is our 200-foot buffer zone. We also have a 200-foot vernal pool offset shown on the plan, right where my cursor is here. They're not proposing to do any work within the vernal pool offset. What you can see is about half of the development of this lot is within the 200-foot buffer zone. They do show BMPs during work, and then in addition to some BMPs on the site afterwards, including infiltration for impervious surfaces, including roof runoff and the driveway. One question I had was the infiltration on site for the entire roof surface or not? And then also I'd recommend the inclusion of the anti-tracking pad on the site. So because we have the issue with the address, I did reach out to the engineer to discuss that and presented two options. One, file a new A&R plan or the plan again for A&R, get that approved by the planning board and have that recorded. And then once that's recorded, then this address will be a legal address again, because right now it isn't. Or change the plans in the application to reflect the property in its entirety, and this shown as a proposed lot. So they did, my understanding that they recently filed with the planning board, and that A&R will be reviewed next week by the planning board. My recommendation, until that is done, I wouldn't recommend that the commission approve or close the public hearing. I would recommend we continue till that's done, and then technically the application will be accurate at that time. So that's pretty much everything I have at this time.
Thanks, Becky.
You're welcome.
Glenn, you're on.
Thank you, Chairman. Andrew Baum is also on the line. We can't disagree with Rebecca. It was pulled off of out of the A&R due to taxes, and why pay taxes on a lot that isn't sold. But now we do have a buyer. We were asking for a closure of the public hearing and an issuance of the order pending the issuance of the new A&R. The abutters list that we do have, the town did recognize this and gave us an abutters list for the individual lot, as it had been an individual lot, and until that A&R was pulled back. Mr. Bob, I do have the tax bill, and it was specifically for this lot, and the abutters list is specifically for this lot, this year's tax bill. Mr. Baum might have a little bit more to add to this.
Andy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the recharge, if you look to the, a little hard to see on that plan, but there's two sets of roof drain recharge areas, one to the rear of the property, or the rear of the house, and the second one is towards the front of the house adjacent to the proposed leach field.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's two. So to answer Becky's question, yes, intended to handle the whole roof area. And then there's also to the right of the lot, you'll see that kind of dark hash line to the right of the driveway. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty level area. The soils were good, very gravelly when we did the soil testing. So that lended itself very well for a recharge for pitching the driveway towards it. So you've got an infiltration trench basically along the entirety of the driveway that's on the property. So we're able to mitigate any stormwater impacts and recharge it back to groundwater. Well is in the back, as shown. You can see the well offsets, and then the septic and the reserve are in the front. And like Becky had indicated, no work is proposed within the vernal pool area with a 200-foot offset. We even specified on the plan a snow fence to be installed prior to clearing to clearly demarcate that area, so they're not intruding on that.
Okay.
And with regard to the tracking pad, that's fine. We can add that. That's no problem.
All right. Stephen Chidesser, any comments?
No. I just want to be clear, though, Becky, you're still recommending that we wait for the official approval, correct? The return to the A&R.
Right. I believe it's advisable to wait until that becomes a legal property again before approving a property that doesn't legally exist at this time. So that would be my recommendation. And I just want to add to, I don't have any overall concerns with the project, and once that's clarified, I would recommend approval of the project. But I would recommend waiting until that's legally done.
Thank you, Becky.
Eric?
What would be the disadvantage to approving the project with an order of conditions if the A&R needs to be approved? Because if we approve it that way and the A&R is not approved, then the project goes away and we can save ourselves a little bit of time. Give the client, give the applicant a little bit more time to move forward with their project. Well, is there a drawback to doing it that way?
I think if there was an issue, then right, you'd have to come back, reopen the public hearing, and go through that process again, and that would add time delays. I don't know that that could be an issue, but then you'd be waiting. You'd have to be able to get on whatever meeting agenda, come back. So that could be a timing and cost concern, I guess, associated with it. It's not. We received an application that didn't include an address. It was invalid in the sense. So I would recommend waiting. I don't know that, I think you could, if you want to use your discretion, I don't know what consequences that there could be for it or not.
Well, that would be up to it kind of seems to me something like that might be up to the applicant to take the risk if they would prefer to have us take a vote and close the public hearing, and if something goes sideways, then that's on them. or if they would request a continuance, then we'd be happy to do that as well. I'm just trying to come up with options to put the project in process faster than waiting until April 6th.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand. I just don't know, you can prove a development at an address that doesn't exist. I mean, it's a proposed lot at a different address. So, I mean, I think if you want to use your discretion, I don't know what the legal consequences would be for it. I agree. It would, right, rather not have to add this onto the next meeting agenda when we have 12 or 13 public hearings already. But that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Glenn, what do you have to say?
Only on that risk part, thank you for asking through the chairman.
We don't see the chairman. He asked directly, which I'd prefer not happen.
No, I apologize.
Okay. Through the chairman? No?
Go ahead and answer the question, please, Glenn.
Thank you then. Well, we already had it approved once. It meets all zoning requirements, setback, size. So we see no risk in the A&R being issued a second time for what they've already seen. And the only reason the applicant pulled it back was to save money on taxes because we didn't know how long it was. We didn't know the market would be so hot that things are just moving. There's already a buyer for it. We were just trying to move forward and believing clearly that we meet zoning and that we could close it next week and we wouldn't need to be coming back in front of you. Again, as I said, they actually have tax bills and did send out a tax bill specifically for this lot this year, dated, let me see, I had last thing here, 4/1/2021. And they did generate specifically an abutters list for this lot. That's all. We don't see the risk.
All right.
The reason, sorry, if I can go, Ed. The reason, I mean, I spoke to the assessor about it. The assessor's tax state system works differently with fiscal and calendar years, and systems get upgraded at different times. So in her world, the assessor's world, they're bound by deadlines. So right, when you went to get your abutters list, it's still in their system. When you went to, the tax bills are still in the system for that year too. I think the board, you can decide amongst yourselves how to do it. I mean, my one concern is that it sets a precedent for filing inaccurate applications that then can be approved by the board too. So I think that is a concern. I would rather not see continuing it, but I think that sets a precedent too.
Steve Halterman.
Yeah, I'm okay with the project, and I go along with Becky's recommendation that we don't approve this until the A&R is straightened out.
David?
One question before I agree with Becky. There's an indication that this driveway is going to be still 24 feet wide?
No, is that a typo on the plan?
How wide is the driveway going to be?
Through the chairman, could I ask Mr. Bob?
Go ahead, either one of you. That's a
Thank you.
question.
Andrew?
Andrew, either one.
Yep. It's only 12 feet wide, Mr. Chairman.
Does it say 24?
No, I thought that at a previous meeting we had talked about 12 feet wide plus the sides of the road, plus you wanted it to be two ways, so I thought it was something in the order of 20 to 24 feet wide.
Dave, you're thinking about a different project on Route 50.
Different project, David.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. I have no comment. Do I have a motion for a continuation or for a closing and voting? We've got to get to the...
I will, in fact, make a motion to continue this hearing until the next Conservation Commission meeting.
Can I hold that, David? Because I messed up again. I have to go to the...
public.
Side to the townspeople. Jeff, are you there?
Yep.
Yeah, can you see if anybody in town wants to comment on this?
Sure. Good evening. Anyone on the public line that would like to speak to 566 Route 15 local notice of intent? Is there anyone to speak to 566 Route 15 local notice of intent? There's no one to speak.
Thanks,
Motion,
Jeff.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Go ahead, David. Do I have a second to your motion?
I second it, Steve Halderman.
Okay. For continuation, David, is that what it was?
Yes.
For continuation. Glenn, you agree to a continuation if we approve one?
Yeah, because I wouldn't want a negative determination. I as Mr. Baum, I'm looking at him at the screen. I have to go and ask for a continuation. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. How do you vote? Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David Barnacle?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halderman, I'm in favor.
And Ed Goodwin, I'm in favor. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time, Commission.
All right, we are now at 91 Clark Road. Notice of intent, construction of a new single-family house and associated site work. File number 300-1095. We'll start off with Becky.
Okay, I'll pull up plan for this. All right, so this is a notice of intent we received. It's for the development of a single-family house and associated site work to include a on-site septic system and well, as well as a barn. The property actually, the property as part of the application is actually 91 Clark Road, which the NOI was filed for, but also 97 Clark Road, as where we're looking at where the driveway is. The project proponent is working with the adjacent property owner to purchase a portion of that property in an effort to be able to locate that driveway further from the wetland there. So we actually are looking at this time, work on two separate properties that wasn't originally included with the notice of intent. It was just for the 91 Clark Road. It's my understanding that the A&R plan was filed with the planning board and approved, but I haven't been notified if it's been recorded yet. So similar to the last project, we do have work on two different properties that weren't reflected within the notice of intent. I didn't realize it until after we already drafted the legal ad and added this to this meeting agenda. But since it's, my understanding that they're working towards making this one property, once that A&R is recorded, then we will have the one property address. So for that reason, I'd recommend a continuation to have that resolved. If it's not done and the property won't be recorded, I think the notice of intent would need to be revised to include the additional property address for 97 Clark Road, as well as a butter notification and anything else that goes along with that for that, just to make sure that we have an accurate application. So maybe afterwards they can give us an update on where the recording of that plan stands. We did do a site visit out here last week on Tuesday. When we did get to the site, we did notice that the wetland area in the front by the road, we did look at that. We did see the culvert that comes underneath the road. Had some questions and concerns in regards to the wetland delineation there, and due to frozen ground conditions, would need to go back and look at that further. So that's one of the comments that the members had out there. I've been working with the applicant on this. We've looked at some options, tightening the limit of work to create a little bit more of upland buffer zone around the wetland, as well as that relocation of the driveway over there. So at this time, I'd recommend, I know that the board wanted to have another site visit out here to really get a better look at the wetland, especially the area by the road. I'd recommend allowing, the project consultant and applicant to speak about the project, but I'd recommend a continuation so we can have a site visit out there. I did put in my notes, I recommend that we try to go out there next Tuesday if possible with the commissioner's schedule. It would be 1 week before our normal site visit. But that way, if there was any revisions to the plans that may be necessary based off that site visit, that would give them a little more time before the next meeting in order to do so. So for the commissioner's request to revisit the site, and then also the recording of the A&R plan to make sure that we have the right property address, in addition to then at that point in time revising this plan to show it as not a proposed property boundary, but the property boundary, I'd recommend the continuation.
Okay, Scott?
Good evening. Just for the record, Scott Morrison from Ecrotech. So I think Becky did a good job kind of outlining things. I think our plan is to go out and review the wetland boundary this Thursday in advance of the Conservation Commission site walk next Tuesday. So I think at that point, if we can go out, review the wetland boundary, it will make the commission site walk all that much easier. As she indicated, the proposed project consists of a single-family house, driveway, barn, septic system, and well, and some grading required. As indicated, the plan is to utilize as an existing kind of cart road and access way, an old house foundation. So the driveway would follow the similar path as the former driveway kind of cart path area. The proposed house would go in roughly about the same general footprint of the old foundation that exists on the site. There'd be some grading required for the septic system, the barn, and the house to be able to get that constructed. Erosion controls will be installed, consisting of a stone tracking pad up near the roadway up at Clark Road, and as well as silt fence and either straw bales or straw wattles around the perimeter of work. We've kind of pulled that back, and we can I'll go over it with Becky out in the field on Thursday. But I'd be happy to, answer questions if the commission has any at this point that we can address between now and the next meeting.
All right, Steve Alderman.
I don't have any questions right now. I'm looking forward to going back out there when snow is gone, which seems imminent.
David?
Only question I have, Scott, is it possible for you to make certain that nothing is dug in? You said hay bales or straw wattles. And I worry if it's hay bales and a silt fence that everything gets dug in, and that's way too wet an area to do that. And it would really disturb the area. So I think if you put it on the ground, it would do just as good a job as anything dug in.
You mean just the silt fence and straw wattles?
No silt fence.
Just the straw wattles?
Straw wattles or hay bales, no silt fence. I'm really worried about.
I always recommend when you've got a site that's got some grading, I always like to have the support of that silt fence that's entrenched. We can certainly, I'd be open to that, but given the grading in those slopes, I would prefer to have the extra measure of the silt fence entrenched. It would be my suggestion, at least.
You're the environmentalist.
Stephen?
I think Becky wanted to make a comment first.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That's right. I was just going to agree with the grading and extent of that work on here. Based off my experience having to monitor these sites, that I would prefer to have the silt fence entrenched too, just to make sure, because we know we get these flashy storms and things change pretty easily, and having that extra protection, especially where we're encroaching in that 50-foot buffer zone, makes a big difference.
Okay. Stephen?
Yeah, no questions for me, Stephen Chittister.
Eric?
No questions for me. Just a note, I will be out of town next week, so I won't be able to join on that site visit.
Okay. Scott, the only thing I saw out there, and it's a question more than anything else, is the water runs down that same side of the road. Are you going to need to have something traveling so the water can travel under the driveway?
Yeah, I believe I spoke with the client and an engineer. I believe the plans will be revised to include a culvert underneath that driveway.
That's the only thing I saw.
Yeah, no, that was a good point and good call by the commission. And we'll certainly address that.
Okay. All right. Continuation. Jeff, can we see if anybody would like to speak in the town?
Good evening. Is there anyone on the public line to speak to the 91 Clark Road notice of intent? Is there anyone on the public line to speak to the 91 Clark Road notice of intent? There's no one for the public hearing.
Thanks, Jeff. Motion for a continuance by someone on the board?
So moved, Eric.
So moved. All right, I got a couple of them. There must have been a so moved and a second in there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I seconded Steve's.
All in favor? Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Becky, what's next?
All right, we have a request for a certificate of compliance. This is for 26 Cedar Lake Drive. This was a raise and rebuild of an existing single-family house. A permit was issued in 2000 and never closed out. This property owner had another order of conditions adjacent to it, 24 Cedar Lake Drive, that we closed out not too long ago. And this one was found afterwards, I guess. Similar, we've had that come up recently a lot. So the project did not have, an engineer plan was not required for it. It had a plot plan with it. For the rebuild, the project was for a rebuild within the same footprint. Based off of review, the work appears consistent with that plot plan. So at this time, I'd recommend issuance of a complete certificate of compliance with one perpetual condition that was noted in the order, and that was special condition number 23, no pesticide, fertilizer, or herbicide use within 100 feet of the wetland, and no quick release fertilizer within 200 feet of the wetland. And that's all.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Eric Gaspar.
Eric
Second,
and
David Barnacle.
Second, David Barnacle. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay. Becky, we're on to 14 Wildwood.
Correct. Yep. So this is a request for a wetland bylaw letter permit for 14 Wildwood. I have the plan up on here for you to see what we're looking at. Wildwood is a private road, runs down the bottom portion of the plan. We have, this was the plan when the house was built that we found and provided to the current owner. We have an existing driveway that comes back, single family house here, septic system in the front. What they're proposing to do, so we have the wetland edge from that plan shown in the back. We got 100 foot and we got 200 foot. So what they're looking to do is to remove, it's 5, maybe 6. One of the trees is right on the edge of the buffer zone here within jurisdiction. And they're also putting an addition onto the single family house right at the 200 foot buffer zone. Outside of jurisdiction, they will have a driveway that will access the new addition, and as well as some tree removal pretty far away from resource area. So they'd like to move forward. What their plan is to remove the trees at this time, and they're still working on their final plans for their house addition. We did do a site visit out here. I would recommend, I don't have any concerns. We did, all the trees were flagged. We did see them back there. Most of them were dead, or, had some, health looking concerns to them. And they're pretty far from the wetland. All the rest of the site, past here is all, forested upland area. So I would recommend at this time, to, approve the project. So I think I wrote in my notes orders of conditions, but this would just be a wetland bylaw letter permit. With most of our standard conditions for erosion control, et cetera. But I'd also add that the final plans for the house addition with the driveway be submitted for our records, just to make sure, he starts to work out some of this process. If it changed, we have that final record. No stockpiling of soils shall occur within the buffer zone. If they do, they shall be protected from erosion. And then to include sedimentation controls here due to the nature of the project and the proximity to resource area. Something, straw wattles or just bales would be appropriate. And then also our standard conditions for tree removal. Tree roots and stumps shall not be removed. And then I'd also add in that no expansion of developed areas have been requested or approved as part of this project. So that way, if there's some additional work, they're reminded they need to come back. That's all.
All right. It's a simple request. Any discussion? They're all clearly marked, Becky and I, and I think Steve, you had it too, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm curious that no one has mentioned that with the trees coming down, you don't feel that there's a necessity for either tree replacement or shrub replacement in order to continue the vegetative nature of that property?
I didn't. If you're asking me personally, no. It's surrounded by trees. It's in a wooded area.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's surrounded by trees.
And the trees are not in the cluster. They kind of circle the house.
Yeah, they're mature though. What I'm talking about is maybe some shrubbery underneath it.
Yep. But I didn't see, if they're putting in a 16 by 22 foot extension off the house, I would not see, that'll have to come before us, and I wouldn't see a reason for requiring planting.
They had to come before us for cutting the trees.
Right.
It's up to you guys.
As I say, they're cutting the trees to put in a 16 by 22 addition. To ask them to do replanting, I didn't. Steve, you were there. What did you think?
I mean, that's a house that's in the woods.
Yeah.
There are a lot of trees there.
That's the way
it's not like it's right next to a wetland that's going to be causing, adding to shading or anything like that. I didn't see a necessity of adding anything to an already existing forest.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion on it? So all in favor, Eric?
Yeah, I'm in favor. Eric Gaspar, yeah.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve?
Steve Halterman in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Administrative updates, Beck?
Less than 10.
Oh, jinx us, David.
So, well, we skipped, some of the new business at the front. So, agent report, just a couple things to share with you. I brought it up last time, but the MACC conference is coming up. It's virtual. They sent out an email. The registration is open. If you'd like to go, please let us know. We do have funding within our budget for that every year, and we'll need to, do the registration with you, for you, so that way we can get them to bill us, et cetera. So please let us know as soon as possible if you want to go. Just to let you know, we did receive correspondence. It's what is it called? It's just a early environmental coordination from CME. They are working with Mass DOT on a upcoming bridge replacement project on Champeau Road. It is a town-owned structure that Mass DOT is proposing to replace, and then it also, some of the work will include work along the right-of-way there, which actually will be in Army Corps on Army Corps land. So there'll be some coordination for that project. I can give them a call and just talk to them about it. Anticipate that we'd be getting a filing in the near future for this. What else? In addition, they'll be paving approximately 100 feet of the road on either side of the bridge, too. So that's just a notification that we received. Just to let you know, I've been working with Trails Committee. We're looking at some improvements on lead mine property. In addition to, I'm going to be helping them with some maps. They're going to be doing some maps for the Board of Selectmen, looking at the property we talked at our last meeting, the 133, 137, 139, Fifth Hill Road, 48 Old Farm. There's the right of first refusal. The Board of Selectmen at their meeting last night did vote to have a public hearing on that matter for the right of first refusal. The Trails Committee is interested in the town exercising their right of first refusal, so that way we can do some trail development on that property. So I'll be working with them on that. Just to let you know, our building removal project that we've been working on Lead Mine and Hines, we've got the contractor lined up. Everything's mostly ready to go. We will be moving forward with the Hines cabin part of that project this spring. Unfortunately, on Lead Mine, we've entered just getting all the paperwork and everything in order. We've entered the wood turtle season, and that's because we're within natural heritage priority habitat mapping for that state listed species. So, in coordinating with them, we were able to file this project as a habitat management project because we'll be removing those structures and creating more habitat. But there was an expressed concern that with all that equipment out there associated with the building tear down, asbestos removal, et cetera, because we do have to access through, most of the property, especially by the Quinnebog, that there could be wood turtles active. And either the way they handle that is either one, you can avoid working during the wood turtle active season, which is what our goal was, or two, you can hire a expert or experienced wildlife biologist that has experience with this species to be on site to do sweeps for turtles throughout the duration of the project. Now, the project, the area mapped is near the Quinnebog River, but we do have Hammett Brook, which is suitable habitat that runs through the site. So there was a concern for most of the areas in the site. So it's a little unfortunate. We were hoping to get that done this spring, but we're going to be looking to wait until November, which we'll just have to do that because we don't have in our budget to do that. I could probably do the wood turtle sweeps for them because I've done that before, but unfortunately I just don't have the time to be on that project for 3 weeks straight. So we're just going to wait on that. I think it's the best call at this time. Going back, I had mentioned that one public hearing about doing the site visits on March 23rd. I know Eric said he's going to be out of town next week. I would like to try to see if we can do some site visits on that day, if it works for some commissioners. Today was our deadline. Today at noon was our deadline for our next meeting. And we have 4 new applications for our April 4th meeting. 2 are notice of intent. One is a new single-family house development on Cedar Lake. The other one is an approximately maybe around 8 to 10 acre new agricultural project that will need to be walked. And then we have 2 RDAs. One is for a pool within existing developed lot, and another, I think it's landscaping projects on Big Alum. We also have, looked at the agenda, we have 2 continued projects that we will need to do site visits for likely, one being 118 Leadvine Lane. I did speak to the consultants today. We should have something in hand to look at, go back out there for that next meeting, as well as we had the 122 Main Street. So in total, we have 7 site visits, and I know that it's hard to do one long day. So I'm wondering if it's possible that maybe we divide these up a little bit if people are available this coming Tuesday, the 23rd, to do the 91 Clark Road, and maybe we look at a couple of the RDAs, and then the following week we look at the new notice of intent, which the two notice of intents, which when I originally asked the March 23rd, I didn't know they weren't in here yet. Those need to get staked out by the engineers, which, letting them know today that we'll be there in a week probably won't give them enough time to do that. So I think that it's going to be advisable that we keep that one at March 30th. I'm not sure how you feel about that. I know it's a little bit more than what we typically do. However, it does kind of keep it so that way they're, shorter site visit commitments, I guess, if we do 2 mornings. So, up to you.
Well, speaking personally, I can make, the 23rd and the 30th. The question comes up is, how's the weather going to be? I don't want to bounce out there on the 23rd if that's still has snow on it, for example.
So I have gone by there when I was out on site visits, and at that point, like 90% of the snow was gone, and that was at the end of last week. So I think that that's probably fine. And like they said in the meeting, they did ask that I go out there on Thursday, and I have offered to meet him out there. So I will know at that if there is any issue. I don't think we will at this point, though.
Anybody else want to comment?
I'm not a naysayer, but the weather report for Thursday would snow.
I know, that's what I wasn't going to say. I was supposed to read my comment. I didn't say it. I just let it go.
Well, rain or shine, I can make it both days.
Oh man, you are the mountain man.
I'm an ex-field biologist with so much foul weather gear that I can do anything.
Yeah, Becky, the breaking it up into 2 is probably better for me, so I should be able to make both those dates.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, you're not going to be here for the 23rd, right?
No, but I can make the 30th. I have that in my calendar.
That's what you got, Beck. That's pretty good.
Okay, thank you, guys. I'll send out an email on Friday with a schedule, and I'll keep the 91 Clark and a couple of the smaller ones that I can take photos and provide to the other members, and keep those bigger notice of intent to the 30th, so that way Eric can see them too.
Good. Committee updates. CPA, we're meeting. I think the 22nd. We've got a meeting coming up. I'm sure. David?
Trails Committee meeting was last week, and at the Trails Committee meeting, there was a lot of activity relative to Long Pond facility, and there was even comments from Opacum because Tom Chamberlain had sent Opacum a list of the things that had happened at the Trails Committee meeting just so that they were up to date. And so there will be 3 trails developed on the Long Pond property, and the gate will be ordered and put in within the next 2 weeks. Within the next week or so, there is going to be a crew in there moving the gravel that is blocking the trail entrance and spreading that gravel into the dip in the road bed. Oh, it's a trail bed right now, but what will eventually become a road bed, which is now filling with water so that it just becomes a mud hole. And the trails will end up all the way on the opposite side of Long Pond over by the Army Corps of Engineers property, which brings up the fact that this consortium of the Mass Transit Group and the Army Corps of Engineers getting together relative to replacing the bridge. When that comes before us, we should remember that it would be really appropriate if we could get a better under the bridge area. At the present time, even a kayaker has to lay down inside the kayak in order to be able to get under that bridge. it would be really good if we could set it up so that a canoeist could get under that bridge at high water without having to become a contortionist. So we have the opportunity of being able to talk about that at the time. And the last item that they brought up was the business about...
David, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
What bridge? Which under the highway?
Champeau Road.
Oh, Champeau Road, okay.
Bridge at Champeau Road.
Okay, good.
Because the end of the Long Pond Trail is going to be right where the picnic area is at the Army Corps of Engineers site. And Champeau Road empties right there. That's where the parking area is, Champeau Road, for the Army Corps of Engineers. And the last discussion, which was a very lengthy discussion at the Trails Committee meeting, was 133, 139 Fisk Hill Road and Old Farm Road. And because new information has been coming out routinely over the past 2 weeks relative to that, the discussion was long, and the Trails Committee was 200% in favor of getting the town to look at purchasing that property. So I would like to make a proposition or a proposal to, I don't want a proposition to, I take that back. I'd like to make a proposal to the commission that we reconsider the vote that was taken at the last meeting relative to encouraging the Board of Selectmen to approve this. According to Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure, if a person who voted in the negative on one of these bills asked for reconsideration, it can be considered by the chairman. It cannot be considered if it was one of the positive votes, but if it was a negative vote, a vote for reconsideration could be considered. It would put us on the right side of the highway when the town is trying to get the rest of the town agree to do something for this. And the argument that, well, it's not something that the land use people have already looked at and felt about, that's because they didn't know that this was going to become a bill. This just happened in the last 2 months. It would be really good for the Conservation Commission to be on the good side. I would like you to consider this article of reconsideration, please.
As the chair, I will consider it. So, you're the one that was negative, right, Mr. Barnacle?
Yes, I am.
So we have a negative and we have a chair. So then, discussion? By
the way, the vote was 4-1.
This 4-1, right? Well, I think my own personal vote was along the lines of I didn't see it coming that there would be interest by the people on Fisk Hill and around Woodside Circle or whatever. Not Woodside Circle. Fox Run. Old Farm Road, yeah. But people have been coming out of the woodwork on it. So there's an interest in the public. The amount of money is $155,000 for 52 acres of land, which is strong proximity to people on Fisk Hill.
Foresight for this is that it would gain access to Hall Road, such that then people, for example, young kids, could go down onto Hall Road and then up to the library without having to get a ride. They could walk or they could ride a bike. They don't have that access now. They have to go on Fisk Hill Road. That's like a death trap.
Yeah. No.
Anyway.
So we're asking for a reconsideration. Any further discussion?
I guess I just don't understand the difference between what we asked for, which was kind of access rights, right, to get down to Hall Road as a potential consideration, and what has necessarily changed if we're still requesting access rights. I mean, obviously, if it is in the care and custody of the town, then it's a different calculus. But what's the main difference between those two actions, other than $155,000?
And the ownership of 52 acres of land. David, what was the discussion along that as far as?
Well, there almost always is a discussion that says I'm taking 152 acres out of the tax rolls.
Yeah.
The other part of the discussion is that you're really leaving it up to whether somebody can negotiate easements with the current owner. Easements to go through what potentially is going to be a Christmas tree farm and open space. And it depends upon the owner of that property as to whether that's going to happen or not. What the Trails Committee is indicating is that it would be ideal to be able to gain access for that right off of, not off of Fisk Hill, because parking then would become a problem. But Old Farm Road doesn't become nearly as much of a problem because of the traffic issues. So they feel that it would be a convenient way to be able to get a walking area for people in a residential neighborhood, which includes Fisk Hill and Old Farm Road, which is probably 75 or 80 homes. And the Trails Committee felt that it would be worthwhile doing this. So that I'm bringing it back to you because they felt it. They didn't ask me to do a reconsideration. I just figured I had to follow parliamentary procedure if I was going to do anything.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I accept it as a reconsideration. I don't know, where do you go from there in parliamentary procedure? Do we discuss it?
The chairman has to make a decision about whether the reconsideration is to be done or not, and then another vote of the board. If he agrees that there should be a reconsideration, another vote of the board relative to what to do on this project.
I agree that there should be a reconsideration. So that, as the chairman, I've done that. Now, the next thing is, what do we do? Discuss it and then vote on it?
Discuss it, vote on it, and send another letter to the Board of Selectmen. And if you send another letter to the Board of Selectmen, you must say that it was due to a reconsideration of a prior vote, so that you know that you're following Robert's rules.
Okay. Steve Halton, what do you think?
Is there any plan for what would happen with the 50 acres? You're going to run a little trail down through it. What about the rest of it? And what's the value to the town? Let's say I wanted to walk through those woods. Is this just for the people that live on Old Farm Road, or is this something that everybody could use?
Its sign would say, no Haldeman's allowed.
Well, I'm picturing town meeting.
What the hell are you talking about? If it's town land?
Okay, hang on. The issue comes down to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen agreed to go after the funding for this, and once they gain the funding, they have to go to town meeting. When they go to town meeting, they will have a motion that will indicate who has care, custody, and control of this. They probably will not want care, custody, and control. They'll want conservation to have care, custody, and control, just like we have of all of the other open space properties in town, with the exception of the Riverlands. So that would not, unless Ed comes up with good signage, that would not preclude Halterman from going on the trails.
Good, there's a lot of us, you know.
The talk, you know, as like Erica said, there's been the talk that's come through that I've heard is that the ideal connection would be to get from there to Hall Road. And as you know, when you hit Hall Road, then you've got the old Charlton Road that goes in behind the I don't know what you call them, condominiums or and goes all the way into the common through that. And so then that, according to Tommy, that would be a connector.
Yeah.
So
just don't get killed on the road. You'll be good. Well, just don't get killed on Hall Road, then you'd be good.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that people at Fisk Hill are a lot quicker than the ones on Hall Road because the traffic coming down Fisk Hill is a lot faster than Hall Road.
And everybody's quicker than me, so.
And me.
Becky had her hand up a minute ago, Ed.
Go ahead, Becky.
I was just going to say I can pull up an aerial photo if you want to look at it, if you want to see the landscape context.
Does anybody want to see the aerial photos? Stephen?
Yeah, I've taken a look at it actually since our last meeting, so I already know what I want to do.
Damn, you're ahead of the curve, Steve.
But that's not chairman material.
Stephen, what do you want to do?
Well, I'd like to change my vote to actually approve the purchase of this, or to recommend approval of the purchase of this, I guess.
All right. Anybody else want to comment?
I would
You guys
want to talk over David. I would change my vote.
You change your vote. I was going to say to you guys, from now on, you got to ask, when we have these meetings, you guys have got to be in the same room. Take turns talking.
Raise our hand.
All right. So Eric? How do you?
I mean, I don't know that I want to change my vote. I don't know that, at this moment, I would like to look at the tax receipt consideration, see what the net impact is economically on the town before we make any type of sweeping decision that I don't know fully in my brain and the overall plan.
You'll certainly have.
If it was part of a concerted plan and effort, then. But
this has to go through town meeting in order to.
No, I understand.
Yeah, so it's got to go through.
And that's fine. I mean, if it flips 4-1 the other way, that's okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Goodwin, if this were to go through, would it not go through CPA fund?
That's possible. It's I don't know where if the people involved are Tommy, right? And Peter, is it Peter Zay? So if they bring it to, just like anybody else, any other citizen can bring us a proposal and we vote on it. It becomes the CPC for $155,000 to purchase this land, and we get a slot on the placeholder to do it and get it to town meeting. It'd probably be in the second town meeting, a special town meeting, but I don't know. And so the answer is it could be CP, or if the selectmen deem that they want it in some other category and want to buy it for for other things, to add other things to it, then that'd be something different. I don't know.
Let me ask a slightly different question that's on the same topic. Becky, since we have over $90,000 in the conservation fund, would it not be possible to take $50,000 of that and utilize it for the purchase of this property? No.
No. So the wetland fund is specific for enforcement-related actions and administration only. Can't use it for land purchases.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So the only thing we're talking about is changing our vote from, from lack of interest to an interest in purchasing this property. So I'm going to ask for my hands vote. Steve Haldeman, how do you vote?
I vote that we go ahead and recommend purchase to the Board of Selectmen.
And Eric, how do you vote?
I would not recommend it at this point.
Okay. Again. Stephen?
I vote to recommend purchase.
Purchase. And David?
I vote to recommend purchase.
And I would recommend to purchase. Got that, Beck? 4-1.
Just tell them it was a typo that we meant 4-1 the other way.
Somebody's dyslexic.
Right.
Let's blame it on Aaron.
Yeah.
Nice, Stephen.
Yeah, Aaron. Aaron's still on the line. Be careful. Aaron, did you mess that up?
She pleads the fifth.
All right, Becky, so a note to the selectmen.
Got it.
Yeah.
Please make certain that it was a reconsideration, because otherwise it doesn't fly.
Yep, oh, I got that down, Dave. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
There are rare occasions when parliamentary procedure really counts, but anytime you're going to be dealing with any kind of a reversal, somebody's going to say, well, how the hell can they do that? They might just do it arbitrarily. Go through parliamentary procedure. There are steps that you can follow that will make it far more legal.
Okay. Anything Lakes Advisory?
No, not yet.
You promised us a meeting.
April's coming. April's coming. We don't have a date yet, though, right, Becky?
Yeah. You're waiting for the.
No date yet.
You're waiting for the dump those trout into Big Allen, huh? Then you're going to go up there and try and catch some of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my speed.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, can we switch? Can I become the liaison to Lakes Committee and have Eric take over for Trails?
Coming up. Becky, what else? Want to approve the minutes?
Yep.
Minutes of March 2nd, 2021. We've already had one point of order. The vote was incorrect in the minutes for.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, can we just make it through that change? It'd be easier.
Yeah, right. Any comments? Any Steve, you want to make a motion
to approve?
I move we approve the minutes. I read them, actually, and they look very good, and you did a nice job, Aaron.
Have a second?
Eric Gaspar, second.
Eric, second. All in favor? David? Stephen? Aaron?
In favor.
It's unanimous. What else, Beck?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Stephen, it's your time.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? All right. Eric Gaspar, seconds. All in favor? Yay. Thanks, Dave.
Good night.
Adios.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thanks, Becky and Aaron. Good job.
Yeah, good job, you guys.
Well done.